the title of the program is, what we learned this summer, which I kind of like because it's reminiscent of the things that your teachers used to ask you, when you came back from summer during elementary school. Tell me what you did last summer. And so this has been an eventful summer. And so what we are going to do is we are going to talk about it. We're going to have conversation about some of the larger issues that arose this summer. And of course, we also know that these issues didn't just arise this summer. They've always been there. It's just that this summer seemed to be the tipping point of knowledge for a whole lot of different people. And so what we wanted to do when Dr. Mitchell asked us if we would participate in this, what we really wanted to do was just talk. Everybody's being told what to do. Here's a plan. You need to do this or you need to do that. But I'm not sure that a whole lot of people are actually talking about the whys and the wherefores. And so we're going to give some of the events of the summer some context. I from a socio-political perspective, and she from a therapist, social worker perspective. And I'll be talking a little bit about it from a mental health perspective too, because I used to be a therapist as well. So we're just going to, it's going to be a broad conversation about those kinds of things.
So what are some of those issues that you guys are discussing?
Well, we want to talk about George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd, because that, for a lot of people, that seems to be the touchstone. That's the thing that everybody remembers because so many people have seen the video. So we want to start with there. We want to talk about not just the murder itself, but we want to talk about the social conditions and the political conditions that surround what that police officer did to, that man, and then connect that to a lot of the other extrajudicial killings that we have seen of Black and Brown and Indigenous and poor folks at the hands of law enforcement. So we want to talk about that, but we don't just want to talk about that one thing. We're going to talk about it as a catalyst, but it's a foundational discussion for some of the social interactions that have occurred that allowed it to happen writ large. We're going to be talking about, of course, then the Black Lives Matter movement and what that means, a history of it, and again, the socio-political conditions that from which it arose. I think we have on the list, we're going to talk about Breonna Taylor and the responses that we have seen or haven't seen to the murders of women and especially trans women, Black trans women, as opposed to those of Black men. Just, a lot of things that came to the forefront during this summer.
I know that this is an important conversation to have, not only for African Americans, but really for anybody. So explain why it's important to, be inclusive in this conversation. It goes beyond African Americans. So explain why it goes beyond that.
Well, this is the first time that a lot of people are actually realizing that it does go beyond African Americans, right? This is really, we've had several points in our history in which people from other ethnic groups, but predominantly white people, have looked up and said, oh my God, I did not know it was that bad, right? I didn't know it was like that. Yeah, you told me, but I didn't, it's because it sounds unreal, some of the things that people from marginalized groups have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so the reason that it's important is because there are plenty of people in our society who think that we can do all of these things separately, that we can have social interactions that hurt one group but don't hurt another. And what we know from the sociological standpoint is that is just not true. If you hurt one group, then necessarily you hurt others. And maybe they don't understand the ways of people who are not directly being hurt don't necessarily understand the ways in which they're being hurt, but it still happens. And so this was another summer, and coincidentally, these things seem to happen, these coalescences of knowledge or the desire for knowledge in the social realm tend to take place in the summer. And so what's different about this summer than any other is that white people understand it now because they see it. Technology has placed us in this moment. Right? If we didn't have people with computers in their hands, right, with video cameras in their hands, that they could immediately upload, to the mysterious internet, right? We still wouldn't be having this conversation, right? It's one thing to hear about it; it is another thing to see it with your own two eyes. So I think that's why, and so while people in marginalized groups have been living this experience, for centuries, some people haven't, right? And they have a lot of catching up to do in terms of knowledge. So that's why it's important.
What kind of ways do you see, along with this, I guess trying to bring awareness to the issues, or I don't think they'll ever be completely fixed, but what other ways do you think we can bring awareness to these issues?
When there's a problem to be approached, I look for more knowledge. Let me find as much information about this as I can so that I can move forward, so I can move forward with some vision so that I'm not stumbling blindly around trying to fix something without really actually knowing, what the problem is, what all the components of the problems are. People are clamoring for information that they did not have before. They want to know about the social dynamics, the history, the political interactions, the dissemination of power. They want to know about all of that now, because while all of that stuff has been happening, a whole lot of people haven't known about it. Now that they know, it's a good time to give knowledge, right? To present information, factual information, that will help them on their journey to fixing whatever problems it is that they see. We've been seeing it for a long time, but it has been on total brave display in the last few years. And it's raw for people because it's tiresome. It's, my God, once I've had friends of mine who are white and who are very much aware of, the history of the nation and the structures of power and how we've come to be where we are, who have said to me, good God, I don't know how you do it every day. This has just been a few years for me, and I just don't know what to do with myself, right? And so that is a conversation that I think a lot of people need to have, not just people who've been dealing with it for centuries, like Black folks and Indigenous folks, but people who are new to this, right? We all have to be able to deal with these things in the best ways that we can, and often our coping strategies are just not adequate. They're not up to the task because, look around.
We have a lot of work to do still. I mean, I know we've come years and, these laws have been passed, but it's still not going to be perfect. And I don't think it's ever going to be perfect. So we still definitely have work to do. And I think this is one great starting point to, trying to make more people aware of it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's everything. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think that people should come to it, expecting to hear a conversation. So one of the ways that I think about politics and social life is through the lens of the lives of women and girls. And culturally, when women are planning for change, when they are working towards a better whatever it is, right? Better schools, better family, better neighborhoods, no matter what it is, right? What women do is we talk to one another, right? We talk to one another. We sometimes we're not looking for solutions. Sometimes we're just talking about a thing because we want somebody who will listen to us and maybe not necessarily tell us a solution, but just listen to us, and maybe a solution will come out of that. And that is very much what you're going to hear tonight. You're going to hear one of the ways that women may change. At the forefront of change for women almost always is discussion with other women. And I think that this is one of the ways that people should think about social change, right? Is that, everybody can't be a Rosa Parks. Everybody doesn't even want to be a Rosa Parks. But we all have things that we can do in our communities if we coalesce with a friend, right? Or if we have a group of people that we trust and all of them have different skills, and we come together and everybody uses their different skills to make change. That's important. And I would argue that it is, I don't even think I'd have to argue hard about this. It is the most unseen component in social change. People never think about women, just kind of sitting around talking about things as a pathway to change. But I would argue it's the only way to change, right? One of the things that people don't know, we were talking about a few minutes ago, these gaps in knowledge that people have. One of the things that people know is that at almost every major, at the forefront of almost every major change in this nation, there were women, right? And we are only just now getting to the point where we're acknowledging them. And so we're going to have a conversation to get people thinking, and we're going to do it in an informal way, but we both have knowledge. We're both what is known as subject experts, right, in these areas. And so we're going to use the combination of our formal, academic research knowledge and our, sitting around the kitchen table and chatting about these things with a good friend. So I want people to understand that that's what we're doing tonight.
I appreciate you making the time to talk to me and having this conversation that people need to hear. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and thank you for asking. I really appreciate that.